What is going on YouTube? This is Acidic Roots on Frenchy Talents YouTube. So within pictures like that amongst it here, this is about the partial government shutdown that's been going on since mid-February within these pitches as far as the product of it kind of happens. Within the aspects as far as saying, I was looking up within the fairs, the government has kind of been in like a partial shutdown as far as these fairs can happen. So within these pitches talking about here within these aspects for the fairs can happen, just some pitches that kind of have to do with it. Now apparently according to the pitch behind it, the main reason behind like the debacle as far as these fairs can happen is dealing with the particular aspect as far as what has to do with the Department of Homeland Security as far as these physical analysis. With them pitch for saying the recent product to some of these ice raids and fairs like that that have been happening back at the beginning of the year, pitch like that. Now within these pitches, these have kind of slowed down right now within these aspects, kind of fair as far as saying, but paying attention like the product as to how some of these type of aspects going to happen. It is kind of pitched that with the government shutdown as this is starting to affect some of the government type programs like the aspect of transportation, fairs like that. It's the pitch as far as saying it's gonna have a kind of aspect, not say comedic in terms of aspect of poking fun with the aspect like that particular tone, but just the pitch it, just like kind of slapstick kind of 2 cents within these pitches and like some healthy popcorn type varieties for us these pitch times. So this is the aspect for us saying paying attention towards it here. But in my opinion, within sense that match is kind of fair as far as saying within the aspect paying attention like the reason for the partial shutdown deals with the product of this like wanting to have like policy reforms for ICE for immigration and customs enforcement and customs and border protection as far as these folks going to happen. So the pitch for us saying, in addition to some failed appropriation with the 12 appropriation bills and limit, in addition to the fact that it's only the Department of Homeland Security. So the as far as saying, I look at them products as far as talking about it here within these pitches as far as paying attention like the product, it kind of makes you wonder why hasn't a list of accommodations been a part of like the talks for the funding coming back to like the immigration enforcement and border protect as far as it's supposed to happen. It's basically like within pitch for us saying within these aspects, paying attention to like the previous type policies that went along with it, with folks thinking that it was too aggressive and the fairs to dislike the aspect to dislike the conditions amongst those stuff fairs not being that pleasant within those pitches amongst like the detention centers and just being torn away from families and fairs like that. It's kind of pitch as far as saying the aspect you would definitely think within the accommodations and stuff areas that the providedness within it's not to the extent of not being able to have like the immigration's customs going to happen, I would say within the pitch, but this kind of seems like with the product that just needs to be more sugar coated within those aspects to kind of have it be, and with the product being more welcome and pitch like that. Some stuff rise within pitch. It just seems with the aspect trying to figure out the disagreement as to what the main cause and the fulcrum behind it kind of happens to be within those pitches as far as paying attention towards it. It's kind of pitch makes you question where the impasse kind of is within these pages as far as saying what's the argument within the fairs of what particularly wants to happen within those sort of deals. Kind of feels like particularly like folks kind of arguing about putting like a water fountain in the school, and the arguments are kind of whether or not there's not going to be five, but there's going to be at least two with some of these type pitches within the product as far as saying. But this feels like the argument within the generality type of would be whether or not there's going to be water fountains in the school at all, as far as be within the argument whether or not there's going to be water fountains in the school at all as far as those pitch analysis. The aspect as far as saying some of these type of accommodations makes you question what those detention centers where those particular immigration folks wind up pitches like that have people do all day within those pitches kind of product. You know, some of these type fairs, I was looking it up for some of these type varieties. Apparently they have board games, there's a television and like a day room and pitch like that. Some of these type varieties pitch like that, tablets for like the occasional entertainment, some of these type varieties, but it's kind of pitched some of these type aspects as far as saying looking within the variety as far as saying that a movie like Liar Liar probably only costs like $4 as far as these pitch. I mean, you can go to like a standard entertainment store and probably that would be like a pretty severe type bounty that could probably shape shift like the tone of like a good aspect like the regularity of the entertainment that goes along with the Sunless Affairs. Just paying attention. Twister's pretty cheap type movie. That's probably only like $4. Tommy Boy by Chris Farley is a real cheap type one pitch like that. Some stuff aspects to some of these type particular tones. It is probably $20 bill would be like a good week's worth of entertainment for some of those type play. A good $20 bill would be like a good week's worth of entertainment there as far as those pitch I'm within those aspects. So this kind of pitch for us and this question like the variety, this kind of feels like a kind of this like feels more of just like a candy coated kind of prison pitch like that within the variety, but just on top of some of the stuff aspects within the tone, on top of that, just kind of the fairs of also feeling like the immigration's customs, some of the affairs are just more aggressive in these pitches. That would probably have to do also with like probably you could say which would probably make apprehending tactics have to be less robust within those ordeals pitches like that. Uh, Whereas folks might actually want to go to like some of these detention centers and not have problems with being apprehended pitches like that. It's this kind of varieties they wouldn't have to apprehend people if it wasn't that much of a bustle dealing with the product of where they're going to wind up. Pitch like that. It's just kind of you think within product of you go to a detention center, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay bills since the pitch amongst it. You watch movies all day, standard fare, just kind of the product of your meals are paid for, pitch like that. A PlayStation would probably be like 45 bucks since that fair. They need to treat that shit more like being recruited for like a YMCA program or something like that. It's just kind of fair. You think within some of the aspects it'd be a little bit more candy coded within those aspects as far as just like the policy. Now I recognize some of this kind of seems relatively kind of far fetched, but it does kind of seem like the policy having some of these type varieties of just simple type aspects of just like I said, a $20 bill goes a good ways as far as saying that that entertainment factor could probably make up like the get up of like a month's worth of entertainment fairs like that since the pitches. It also makes you question within these aspects what the Department of Homeland Security has to do with like the pitch and just everything else that goes along with it, having to do with like transportation, security, and affairs like that. Since affairs is kind of, it's basically the aspect as far as saying that people can't fly on airplanes and there's just less tourism overall and pitch like that because there's no Wolfenstein at like these places and Foo Fighters albums to kind of listen to with some of that first aspect of just that holding centers, pitch like that. It's kind of variety some of these aspects are just kind of foul sets away, some pitches like that. This the aspect of like the aggressive type fair and just it kind of this feels more of like a quagmire like type situation. This would probably coincide easily with like the big beautiful bill that's getting ready to happen. Some of the pitches where folks could make hella buck off of immigration within these pitches. This could probably coincide easily with like the big beautiful bill that's getting ready to happen next year within these pitches that could make hell buck off of immigration type folks, pitches like that with like extra throwaway funds for needed matters. Just kind of pitch just saying some of these type folks that are kind of here within these pitches, just kind of aspect as far as saying just paying attention. I recognize that the security aspect kind of goes along with it, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying you think that there could be some sort of probation or affairs like that, some sort of matters where the just the aspect of increased kind of surveillance would kind of happen. Just the aspect of just like guided kind of surveillance with some of these type of aspects to be able to say you can work, but you have to work as far as those first kind of just aspect of just like act. It's the aspect of consistent kind of community service and fairs like that to kind of get towards the product of making the money and then getting towards the path of some of those fairs that kind of happens. This kind of pitch extra type varieties just to say it could probably, I mean, with the programs that are kind of going along, it would seem within the pitch that just those fairs are just getting that extra type money within the pitch, considering the funds that are kind of going along with it with like increased like the wars that are increasing in the stock market tumbling and some stuff fairs and just amongst the type varieties, other type products of it price of gas and oil going up since the pitch within the Friday and just standard particular economy kind of fluctuations pitch like that. So this Friday's going to have with an aspect of extra thoughts pitch like that, 2 cents amongst these sprays and like a healthy popcorn type sense.